Hello, and welcome to the fifth of these examples of Christians who served the Lord as disciples, understanding what it meant to serve and to sacrifice. And today it's Archbishop Oscar Romero that I want to feature. He was Archbishop of El Salvador. El Salvador is Spanish for the Savior, and it's a small country about the size of Wales in Central America. Born in 1917, he eventually trained for the Catholic priesthood, both in his own country and also spent some time. In fact, the time of the Second World War, he was in Rome at the Vatican studying. He came back to El Salvador, where he served as a parish priest and then became a bishop, and had the reputation of being a very conservative, with a small c, bishop, very true to Catholic doctrine, and was eventually appointed Archbishop. At that time, El Salvador was ruled by a president who was really the front man for 12 extremely wealthy families who were exploiting the poor and the wealth of El Salvador for themselves. He already knew about the poverty, and he would mention it from time to time, but not long after he became Archbishop, a friend of his, a Catholic priest called Rutilio Grande, was murdered along with two of his parishioners. And to have such a close friend murdered by what were known as the death squads, who would dispose of, murder any of the government's enemies, usually at night time, and their bodies, if ever found, would be on a local dump of some sort. Anyway, his friend Rutilio Grande was murdered, and he immediately, in response to this and what he knew about the poverty in El Salvador, pleaded with the government to do something about it, have a concern for the poor, have a concern for human life. And over the years, he campaigned, and he used his weekly radio broadcast, to often preach about how Jesus loved the poor so much, and how it was the duty of all Christians to have a concern for the poor. So much so that his criticism was beginning to irk the government. They really began to see him as an enemy. Then in 1980, in March 1980, he publicly ordered the army to stop killing people. He said, "In the name of God and in the name of this suffering people whose cries rise to heaven more loudly each day, I beg you, I implore you, I order you, in the name of God, stop the repression." On the next day, 24th of March 1980, Oscar Romero was shot dead while saying Mass, leading that communion service. The assassin took aim and killed him. The text for that day was from John 12 and verse 24, where Jesus says, "Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." And there is no doubt that Archbishop Oscar Romero's assassination brought to the attention of the world and to many powerful figures who could influence in El Salvador, not least of all the American government, pressure on the El Salvadorian government to ease the repression became greater, and change began to happen. Although there was a violent civil war going on, many ordinary people began to protest and began to work for change that eventually brought down that government and stopped the support of the American government for the repression in that country. So although the voice of the people, Oscar Romero, was killed, his voice and his life were an example to those who then stood up and were counted against the repression of the government. An amazing story of sacrifice.